All right, here we got a story. This is a story that I wrote a while ago, but here's the story. Okay. Every year for years of the 10 years, whatever, more. So I wrote stories and send them out, and I redo the stories and I send them out now. So here's a nice story. Here, ready, go. All right, I'll read it from the beginning. This week's Torah portion ends with the story of the Akedah, that Abraham tied up his son to kill him. Surprisingly, this weird story of attempted murder instigated by a heavenly voice is the basis of Judaism. Abraham heard a voice. Not only that, but the Torah tells us almost nothing about the Judaism of Abraham. What are the principles of, what exactly did Abraham do? What was his religion that he made? It tells us almost every detail of this weird Akedah that Abraham made. But that's the point of Judaism, to take your son and to sacrifice him. What's so important about this deed? To understand this, here's a story. The year was in 1950 in Russia. Communism was ready to conquer the world with its bold ideas of equality, opportunity, hope, freedom from oppression. Russia was excited, inspired with hope. And the most excited were the Jews. The Jews threw away their Judaism by millions. Religion was a thing of the past, a vestige of the Dark Ages. Marx, Lenin, the great light, Stalin, may his name be cursed forever, he would illuminate the world. Communism would end the worries of mankind. And no one believed it more than Abrasha Yaffe. His father was named Avraham. His father had been a religious Jew, a Chassid and a follower of the Rebbe Shalom Dovber, one who passed away on the 20th day of Cheshvan. But Abrasha was a card-carrying, totally devoted communist with a large party, with a high party position and aspirations even higher, and he had no time or place for this old, antiquated, obsolete, irrelevant religion. He didn't do anything Jewish for over 10 years. Since he was 15 years old, Judaism was not on his agenda. Abrasha married a Jew that was also a communist official. Maybe not as high a communist official in the ranks as he was, but one that shared his ideas totally. By coincidence, she also had Jewish parents. Her grandparents had been observant, but her parents only marginally, but she was totally communist, just like he was. So it was no surprise that when their first child was a boy, the thought of circumcising him never entered their minds. As far as they were concerned, he was a Russian and potentially would be a good party member. But Abrasha's mother, Abrasha, his father had passed away, but Abrasha's mother, and her name was Chaya Basha, she would have no part of it. She confronted her son and said, this baby, my grandson, is going to be circumcised. And that's all there is. So Abrasha, he tried to ignore it. I mean, he had respect for his mother, but he tried to ignore her, but she refused to be ignored. She tried arguing. He tried to say, listen, mother, it's foolish. It's old-fashioned. It's dangerous. It's superstitious. It doesn't work. And it's against the law in Russia. But she refused to listen. Then when he simply put his foot, he said, listen, mother, no, I'm not going to do it. So she stared at him in a way that he had never seen before. She put her hand on her heart and said almost in a whisper, if you refuse to circumcise the child, then I'm going to commit suicide. So he saw she was really serious. He started to shake. He couldn't even look his mother in the eyes. He cleared his throat a few times and he said, okay, but first of all, it has to be in total secrecy. No one will know. Second, I won't be there and his mother won't be there. I'll leave the child by you. You'll be the babysitter. It's a very common thing in Russia. The grandmother would babysit for the children. And then if they discover that he's circumcised, then you have to take the blame totally. You have to say that you did it. That way, if they get caught, so say the old mother, she doesn't know about communism and how good it is. She took them. So Chaya Basha knew what to do. She went to a chassid by the name of Chanuch Hendel Galperin. Galperin is also Halperin because the Russians can't say hey, so they say Gimel. Galperin. He was a moral circumciser. So will you do the Brit on the day that the child will be 8 days old? And this Chanuch Hendel, He said, okay, but only on the condition that, number one, he would decide where the brit is going to be, and he would decide, tell the grandmother where it's going to be. I mean, where, they knew when, but what time of the day it's going to be, and where exactly it's going to be, so that no one will know beforehand. And then she has to keep it, not to tell anybody. So when the day arrived, it was late in the afternoon, about a half an hour before the occasion. He came to her house and told her where the address is. It wasn't far from where she lived. She brought the baby there. He already brought 9 other Chassidim together, and with the greatest circumcision, secrecy, and speed, he made the separate ways to small, the little apartment on the 3rd floor. The door was locked. The window shades were drawn, closed. The child was circumcised and given the name Yisrael. Everyone said Mazel Tov. Then came the little meal. They made a little meal. Chaya Basha produced a few small loaves of bread, a bottle of vodka, a few herrings, and some salad. And the meal began. Everyone was happy. They were drinking. They were thinking of the Chayim. And all of a sudden, there was a knock on the door. A deathly silence fell over everybody. Chaya Basha, she put her finger, waited a moment, put her finger to her lips, and she said, "Who is there?" Knocking on the door, more knocking. She approached the door and she called it, "Who is there?" The person on the other side said, "Who?" She said. She didn't know. Maybe it was the KGB. Maybe it was a trick. She had no choice. If the KGB and she didn't open, they would break it down and arrest everybody. So she opened the latch, one latch, and then another one. She opened up the door, and there was her son, Abrasha. How did he know that it was there? She has no idea. Maybe he was looking, observing the whole thing from far away, from some secret place. Anyway, without saying a word, he entered. He looked around, closed the door behind him, locked the door, approached the table where everybody was sitting, pulled out a chair, and he sat down. Someone poured him a l'chaim. He took the glass, he lifted it up, but before he could drink, one of the Hasidim said, "Hey, put on a yarmulke, a covering on your head. Put it on your head," and said, "Maybe make a blessing." It's a commandment. You're supposed to make a blessing before you eat something. And the head covering is to show the fear of God. So he made the blessing. He drank the cup of vodka. Then the Moil put his hand on Abrasha's shoulder and he said, "Tell me, have you ever heard of a chassid by the name of Avram Yaffe?" That was his father. When Abrasha heard the name of his father, he started swaying back and forth. He closed his eyes, and the effect of the vodka also, and he started singing a slow, beautiful nigun that his father used to sing when he prayed. And everyone joined in. After a few more l'chaims, he began reminiscing about how his father would pray for hours, the songs that he used to sing, the stories that he used to tell. And he continued the whole entire night until sunrise. As soon as the sun rays shine through the window, one of the Hasidim said to Abrasha, "Why don't you make a decision? Make a resolution. Make a decision you're going to do some Judaism." He said, not me. He said, "No, I knew your father well. Your father was an honest man. He really believed in God, and he really believed in you. He believed that both God and you wouldn't let him down. I'm sure that up in heaven, your father has no rest until you do what God wants. Put on tefillin, keep the Shabbos, eat kosher food. That'll make your father happy." Abrasha thought for a moment and he said, "Okay, I agree." The next day he told his wife that he decided to turn over a new leaf, and a few weeks later he miraculously found some excuse to leave his political position, get a more normal job where he wouldn't be observed constantly, and he could become an observant Jew. It seems that the circumcision of his son removed his spiritual foreskin of his heart as well. Good story. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow, 8:15.